Hello guys, it's Chris, and in today's episode of Sample Market Producer Tips and Tricks, we're gonna have a look on how to create the backbone, the core structure of a breakbeat using one-shots coming from my artist sample pack. Then we're gonna upload this into a drum rack through samplers, use MIDI devices in order to generate variations, add a bit of excitement with the layering, and a lot more. So let's get logged in. So I'm going to open a drum rack, which you can find here already. And I'm going to import the sampler into each part of the drum rack. Let's say I'm going to use this one for the kick drums, this one for the snares, this one for the hi-hats, and this for the percussions. And then maybe one for effects, as usually they give really nice context and stereo width to the loop. So here I have my artist sample pack, which has been released via Sample Market, obviously. And I'm going to load all the kick drums into the first sampler. Same I'm going to do with the snares. Same with the hi-hats. And I'm going to do the same with the percussions. Okay, now that I have uploaded all the sounds, I have to find a way to jump from one sample to the other. One way to do this is to open the zone, click the velocity, right click, distribute ranges equally. And what I will do is I'm gonna upload the velocity MIDI device with this exact setting, which means that it's going to generate a random value between 1 and 127. So the value generated will hit and trigger a random sample that we have uploaded. If I create a pattern, and I'm going to, let's say, let's keep it easy for now. If I press play now, a different sample is going to be trigger each time a note is present. Pretty chaotic for the moment, but what I would like to do is to create what is a normal pattern, which most likely I will do this way. I'm going to work on the envelope. Same I'm going to do with the snares. Obviously, if we put the velocity on front of the drum rack, this will apply to every drum pad that we have here. This is pretty random so far. I'm going to add some hi-hats. And in this case, I will play with the chance function. This is something that I tend to do when I'm not too much inspired, but also want to surprise myself. So let's say I'm going to select all the notes and bring the chance value to 30% or so. So there's a 30% possibility that this pattern will play, this pattern will play. But I like to keep a couple to 100% value because this gives me a bit of repetition, which is the key to not have things too much chaotic and random. So I try to have some kind of controlled randomness, if this makes sense. I could do the same with the snare and the kick. Maybe I can import a couple of hits here and there, which can be good for variation instead of having a full length loop. opening a bit the pan and randomness so they can play a bit with the stereo. I'm talking about the hi-hats. If I push everything to 100%, you can hear how it's working, right? So not too much. I'm gonna do the same with the percussions actually, but I don't want the percussion to happen too often. So let's see how they're gonna sound like this. Obviously, I didn't put the velocity. Damn, my bad, guys. Interesting. I feel that some kick drums have a bit of a stereo field in the low end, which is something that I did on purpose. And if you have it as a one shot, can be nice, but I think it's better to control the stereo when it's about this kind of techniques, especially in the low end. I'm going to open a bit the pan also with the percussion lines. I'm going actually to reduce the overall stereo field. Cool. So this is pretty random so far. So what I can do to introduce a bit of, how to say, to have something not so casual and not so random, what I can do is use the beat repeat, because the beat repeat brings some kind of repetitiveness to the pattern, which comes very handy and is very helpful when everything is too random. So what I can do is bring the beat repeat here. But first of all, one thing that I can use regarding the percussion is use the filter, which I think can be nice. Yeah. And maybe let's add a delay to those percussions. Very subtle one. So let's see what the beat repeat does. Basically, the beat repeat, as said, repeats the audio signal that comes in depending on the functions that we have here. So basically here we have the interval, that is the section that we want to consider for the beat repeat effect to kick in. So basically the size of the loop. So how often we're gonna hear the stuttering effects. Then we have the offset that allows us to decide where within the interval we want these effects to happen. Then we have the gate, which is the amount of stutters, and then we have the grid, which is basically the velocity, the rate of the stutters. Then we have the variation function, which is going to generate random values of the grid, which can be interesting sometimes, but I wouldn't use it too much because things are already random in this case, so I want to have everything quite controlled. Then I have the pitch in case I want the stutter to be pitched down, pitch decay, which can fade in a bit the pitch effects. And then I have a filter, which is really interesting because I have this bandpass that I can use on my own, decide which area of the spectrum I want the beat repeat to affect. And I have three options, which is mix, which allows me to have the dry signal and the wet signal combined. The insert, which I'm going to have the signal when I'm going to only hear the beat repeat effects, and then back to the dry signal. And I have the gate function, which basically the sound is going to play only when the beat repeat is in action. So let's try to mess a bit with this. I will use usually the insert function to avoid phasing. The grid, let's say a third or a sixth even. And let's add some gate. And let's see how this is working now. I'm going to create different beat repeats with different rates. Then I'm going to group them, and I'm going to use the velocity to jump from, or the chain function to jump from one beat repeat to the other. So I can have also variation with the repetitiveness of the beat repeat. Let's use a 1-bar loop here. The grid, I'm going to say a quarter. Then I'm going to have it this way. Too much. Then I can have 16ths. And yeah, so let's group this, create different instances with the beat repeat, with the different functions. Let's use the chain, and let's use the expression control, which we have already seen in the other tutorial. And I'm going to use this to select the chain assigned to each beat repeat. So if I press play, you can see now that this is sounding a bit more repetitive, but still not that repetitive. So we're trying to control the randomness that we have generated before. First of all, let's add a bit of compression at the end of the chain. So on the master, drums, let's use this. And then a limiter to things, to bring things in at 0 dB. So this is gonna get a bit louder, guys, if you want to change the volume. I'm going to open a spectrum just to have a reference of where I'm at with frequencies and on the mix, because I'm working on headphones to record the video. So I want to be sure that everything is sounding in the right place. Okay, I'd say is a nice compromise. We are in a good spot. So what usually I would do, this is pretty random still, and I don't want this to be the final drum loop of the breakbeat. So what I would do is just I would bring a EQ at the end. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as that extra layer, where on top I will use dry sound and repetitive ones that are going to be the leader of the rhythm section. So let's use the drum rack, import the sound from my artist sample pack. Let's do kick drums. Oh, I feel, yeah. No, the drum rack. I've imported the drum rack in the wrong channel. So let's do this. Port all the kick drums here. Port all the snares. Then the hi-hats. And then the percussions, which I love, by the way. Okay, everything fits. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select a kick drum that I like. This is pretty heavy, but I think could work nicely here. Usually I always try to create the snares from percussions, as it is something that I really like to do. This is just my way of working. So I really like the starting of this. Let's try to find a good snare. This is kind of 808-ish snare already. If this is too repetitive for you guys, you can either work with a chance, or usually you can even just create another chain where there is no beat repeat. Distribute ranges equally, so you have 25% in this case that there will be no beat repeat at all. Right, so or what you could do is just open another one that works only in the gate function on the 2-bar. 2-bar is a bit too much for a beat repeat, but I can maybe do it this way. Let's add a hi-hat. So I'm not really happy with let's say I'm not really happy with this hi-hat that I've just made. So I think that I could do, which we also have seen before, is just to draw a 16-note pattern and then just play with the chances. Let's say I'm going to use some at 100%. And I'm going to use some dry ones to have a bit of context. Okay, not too bad. So maybe this I wanted to happen just once. So I'm going to erase this, and maybe this could be a percussion, why not? And yeah, let's repeat this. And usually in the breakbeat, what I tend to do is I try to have one 909-ish kick with a longer tail and very short ones, like these ones. For example, what I would do usually is this. So what I can do is add a sidechain compressor to the first drum rack, so I can sidechain the signal coming in from the main drum loop, which is this now. And this works kind of as a texture in the background. But let's see if I mute this, how this is sounding. This is sounds to me like that extra loop that I always need and look for in order to fill that gap between any main drum loop and the bass line or the synth. So let's use a pad loop from my artist sample pack. Let's use this one. Let's see what's sounding. Let's work a bit on this percussion. Maybe I can use a doubler from the phaser. Or maybe I can use the autobahn to use it as a kind of a gate, which I think could be interesting. So usually this is used to create spatial effects, so work with the stereo, but if I close the phase, this becomes a gate. You see? So what I can do is, this was an invert, so see what I mean? Let's see, I can use it on A's, maybe not too much amount, and maybe a delay, and we are there, I guess. So I'm gonna add a chance to this percussion because I feel it's very repetitive at the moment. I'm hearing it too often. And also what I can do is just reverse it. Or if you want to get, you know, creative with that, you can even have just one being inverted, play another one with the warping function, so maybe have like a texture mode and get crazy with it. But in this case I would use maybe the gate function, maybe not. Let's see. Maybe I can just do this. Obviously I can just select the chain function and use the expression controller as usual, and possibly I can randomize this, so you can gonna hear some variation of this percussion, and also this percussion now has a chance on it, so every time you press it, it's gonna be different. So now I'm going to generate a baseline, and so we can have some kind of finished loop that I think could be more interesting to have for a finished sounding loop. So here have I've added a 303, which is gonna make the baseline, and let's share the final result. hope you enjoyed this one, and be sure to see each other into the next tutorial. Cheers, guys.